All right, guys, we are live for Joe Biden's address to the nation. He is surrendering. President Joe Biden surrendering to Donald Trump after Donald Trump's decisive victory. Decisive? Is that a good word? Decisive? I prefer massive landslide. What is Trump at now? 312 electoral votes Trump is at now, which is huge. I was on Twitter. I've been trying to weed out these leftists raging about Trump's victory. And what we're seeing, a lot of what we're seeing at least, is Democrats saying that this is a big loss for women. This is a fascist state. We have Rachel Maddow. One of the craziest ones that I saw was Rachel Maddow was on MSNBC, and she did this clip collage of Donald Trump saying in the past, "We don't need the votes. We don't need the votes." And he said that many times, and she cut it out of Trump speaking on many occasions, just saying, "We don't need the votes." And she concocted this giant conspiracy theory that somehow this election was stolen, or she insinuated it heavily. But the problem is, it's mainstream mediaing, the corporate pressing. What's another term for the corporate press? The legacy media. Yeah, legacy media, whatever you call it. She cut out just a few words of Donald Trump, and she never plays like what he said before, what he said after. And I've covered a lot of Trump speeches, a lot of Trump rallies, even when he went on Twitter, did Twitter spaces where there was no video, just audio. And Trump would say a lot. He'd be like, "We don't need the votes. We don't need the votes, but we must make it too big to rig. We have to make it too. We don't need the votes." He would say that a lot. And it's just the corporate media just being incredibly deceptive. I know I just rail about it, and it's a big thing now. The corporate media has been defeated, because Donald Trump is the one that went on these podcasts. Donald Trump is the one that relied on independent media, and Kamala Harris is the one that kind of gave him the shaft for the most part. I mean, I know she went on a couple podcasts. She went on Call Her Daddy, okay. But Donald Trump was the one that went on Theo Vaughn. He went on Joe Rogan. He went on Aiden Ross. I mean, these are giant podcasts that just regular people listen to. And they're not political podcasts, which I think is a huge thing. Joe Rogan, he does delve into politics, but he delves into a wide range of topics. He talks about fighting, UFC. He talks about UFOs, space. And the topics of the podcast are largely dependent on the guests he has on the show. So if he has a political guest, he'll talk about politics. But then if he has, just your everyday UFC guy or someone that's not necessarily a politician, he might, kind of delve into some politics to kind of get their take. But he doesn't really push politics for the most part. And I think one of the reasons why Joe Rogan got so involved in politics kind of at the end of this election cycle this year is because of Elon Musk. And the fact that Elon Musk bought Twitter and turned it into a free speech platform. And also the fact that Elon Musk is dealing with so much from the federal government, so many lawsuits. He was the one that released the Twitter files that showed that the federal government, the intelligence agencies were messing with Twitter, trying to suppress certain information from coming out. I mean, we all knew it, but the Twitter files confirmed that. And so he has this kind of experience, and him and Joe Rogan are big friends, are very close friends. And I think he really emphasized to Joe Rogan how important this election was. And it wasn't just, every election. It wasn't just any election. It just kind of becomes cliche after a certain point, where people say that, oh, yeah, this election is the most important election of all time. But they always say that. They always say this is the most important election of all time. And it's kind of true. I mean, in a way, that's true, because there is a lot of money involved in these elections, and the interested parties are going to put out that narrative so that people get riled up to go vote. People will be pressured to go vote. But out of all the times I have heard it, this time I believe it. I believed it more than any other time. I think the culture in the country got very toxic, especially with censorship. I mean, we can talk about illegals coming over the border, and that's a extremely important topic. That's an extremely important policy agenda. But when it comes down to like some of the fundamental rights, censorship, that's the one that really got me uncomfortable. And kind of along the same lines is what happened. I still feel it to this day. What happened during COVID? I was a traveling consultant. I would travel all over the country as a consultant, and I just remember I refused to wear a mask. I think there was maybe 2 occasions I wore a mask during COVID. And I remember walking into grocery stores, restaurants, gas stations, and I would get dirty looks from people. And it's weird because you feel like a stranger in your own country at that point. And these weren't, places that I would go in all the time. Like, say I lived in a town, and I would go in a grocery store over and over, and I knew the people and they were cool to me. No, these were people that didn't know me, and they were hostile. And I would just refuse to wear a mask. And I just remember that feeling like there's something wrong here. So that feeling has stuck with me to this day. And the fact that censorship is so prevalent on the internet, it's kind of gotten a little bit lax. They've kind of taken their finger off the trigger lately, which is very good. But the fact that it got so bad for a while with COVID, misinformation and election misinformation, that really concerned me. So I think Elon Musk kind of, to use the term, red pill Joe Rogan. I think Joe Rogan was already concerned about it, but I don't think he really understood just how bad it was and how important it was for someone like Donald Trump to get elected in order to counteract that. Because people might say, well, these social media platforms, they're private businesses. It's not the federal government doing it. But that's been debunked because of the Twitter files, also of their dealings with Facebook and Meta. But also, it's not just the federal government. It's this whole idea. It's this whole ideology. I mean, you hear it talked about on MSNBC. The View was talking about it. Even yesterday, The View went on a rant about social media and how they have to start regulating social media because of the misinformation and disinformation. And when you hear those words, misinformation, disinformation, all those are propaganda words for censorship, because they can't say censorship. They can't say that word. Why? Because it reveals what is really going on behind the scenes. It's censorship. Misinformation equals censorship. It's a direct parallel. And you see the government do this, or the federal government agencies do this. PR is essentially PR. They swap words out with other things that sound better, right? I think we see this with some of the bills that we have in Congress a lot of the times. The Patriot Act. It's like, what? You don't support the Patriot Act? What, are you not a patriot? And then you look what's in the bill, and it's just like, I think a patriot would actually be against this bill. Why are you naming it the Patriot Act? So we are going to be waiting for Joe Biden to address the nation. I don't know when he's supposed to come up. He was supposed to come up a little bit ago. Let me refresh C-SPAN.
Who will control the House of Representatives.
So they are also rambling
have a
over here on C-SPAN, waiting for the prez to come up, take the stage. Joe Biden, though, what do you guys think about Joe Biden, huh?
Of the House Republicans have so far netted 4 seats. And again,
let me see here. What do we got going on here? Their player is always really weird.
left on the House level.
Where is the
C-SPAN results map that you can check yourself and click around on the Senate side.
what is this? Closed captioning? I don't. Let's just turn off captioning.
Seats in the Senate in the 119th Congress. We're talking about all of it this morning, spending all 3 hours.
Oh, here we go. Okay. That's a little bit better. Okay, so we're gonna wait for Joe Biden to take the stage,
The official announcement and
which should be any minute now. I believe 11 Eastern time was the time that he was supposed to take the stage, address the nation. And I'm kind of curious what he's gonna say.
Jerry, go ahead.
Because behind the scenes, it seems like there's a little bit of animosity between Joe Biden and the Democrats, or the Biden family and the Democrats. I don't know. Did you guys see Jill Biden? Jill Biden in her red dress, gold shoes. This was crazy. I mean, this cannot be a mistake, can it? Can this be a mistake? Look at this. Jill Biden wore all red to go vote. I mean, it's not burgundy. It's not like, that's like the Republican red color. Okay. I don't care who you are. That's Republican red. And then let me magnify this a little bit. See if I can. So if you look down here, her shoes, gold. I mean, the tips of them are black, but then you have gold. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm looking too much into this. I saw this on Twitter. I actually did not even recognize this right away. I saw this on election day, and I saw people posting her outfit. It didn't even register to me right away. But then, like a little bit later, I was like, wait a second. She went and voted in all red, bright red, Republican red. What is that? And then, of course, Joe Biden has undermined Kamala Harris, I mean, many times during her campaign. And do we have something going on here?
6 defendants. This from today's Metro section of the Washington Post.
Still waiting. Joe Biden has undermined Kamala Harris many times during her campaign. I mean, when she went to Georgia, he undermined her. He walked into the White House briefing room for the first time and in his entire presidency, which took the spotlight off of her while she was out in Georgia trying to act like she was presidential material. Then, of course, we had the situation with Ron DeSantis where Kamala Harris said that she called Ron DeSantis, and Ron DeSantis was not answering her calls. Like all these grievances. It's like, it's pretty typical for a politician or a Democrat politician to do something like that, play the victim, get people riled up. Like, oh, I can't believe that Ron DeSantis didn't take the vice president's calls while she's trying to campaign and attempt to be presidential. It's like, well, she's not the president. Why would she take his calls? But Ron DeSantis, he responded to it. He was like, well, I didn't even know she called. Me and Joe Biden had a conversation, and it was a good one. And then Joe Biden responded to these allegations that Ron DeSantis was, not answering Kamala Harris's calls because he didn't like Kamala Harris. And he was like, well, me and Ron DeSantis had a great conversation. He's, we're working together and all these other. So that was another way he seemingly undermined Kamala Harris's campaign. Then, of course, he put the MAGA hat on. That was huge. No one saw that coming. I mean, that's when I was like, man, Joe Biden, I kind of like the guy now. Okay, and I'm not going to go that far. But he seemed like a real person for a little bit because, he was talking to the guy that was sitting there. I forgot where he exactly was, but there was a group of people. And one of the guys that were sitting there while Joe Biden was talking, he was just kind of riffing with them, had a Trump 2024 hat on. And Joe Biden went to sign this other hat that he had. And the guy took off his hat, gave it to Biden. He's like, hey, put this on. And Joe Biden was like, I can't put that on. And then he puts it on and makes a goofy face. I was like, okay, that's real right there. That's crazy. So that was like the first time I was like, wow, it's incredible how toxic politics is. And when you're the, candidate, you have to act in all these structured ways. And it's just, it's probably taxing on a person, completely strips them of their individuality, at least if you're a Democrat, not if you're Donald Trump. But if you're a Democrat, completely strips you of your individuality, your personality. Unfortunately, with Kamala Harris, her personality did kind of shine through the cracks a little bit, which was unfortunate, which I don't think is something that they wanted. Probably shine through a little bit more than they had anticipated. But Joe Biden for a little bit looked like a normal person. It was crazy. And then, of course, was the infamous trash comment. The trash comment. 2-3 days before the election, he calls all of Trump supporters trash, creating an uproar. An uproar. And for me, I wasn't even I didn't really care about the comment. But it was kind of an opportunity to point out the hypocrisy of the left, right? Because the whole narrative was Tony Hinchcliffe took the stage, Madison Square Garden, and he made this joke, which a lot of people, including myself, didn't understand. It's about Puerto Ricans and the island being garbage, right? Well, now that I have some perspective, apparently what he was talking about is the fact that Puerto Rico actually has a garbage problem. Being an island, they don't have anywhere to put the garbage. So there's giant landfills. And it's a real problem in Puerto Rico. And that, I guess, was what he was referencing when he said garbage. But of course, the media, being so close to the election, I think they would do this anyways. They attached to context that a Trump supporter speaking at Trump's rally, biggest rally, iconic venue, Madison Square Garden, that he was calling Puerto Ricans themselves garbage. He was intentionally trying to disrespect Puerto Ricans, and this was racist, right? And they ran with this. They talked about it, in their serious tones, I can't believe that Tony Hinchcliffe would call Puerto Ricans garbage. Oh, yes, I can't believe that, too. What should we do about this? Trump's is racist. All of his supporters are racist. This was a Nazi rally. You know what they do, the mainstream media? I rag on them all the time with their, very serious tones, coiffed hair and suits. Very interesting. And then Joe Biden comes out and he calls Trump supporters garbage. And that just literally just blew up. And like I said, I don't care. I don't care if Biden calls me garbage. But I think it's important to kind of harp on that, or it was important to harp on that because of the fact that the left, they will take a comment and they will blow it up. And in this case, it was actually worse when it was Joe Biden because Joe Biden's the president. He is the president. Tony Hinchcliffe is a comedian. And if you think his garbage comment or garbage joke about Puerto Rico is offensive, you should hear some of the other stuff that he says. That's what he does. That's what he does as a job. He pushes the envelope. He makes edgy jokes. One of the ways to get someone to laugh is to say something uncomfortable or offensive. That's comedy. And in Joe Biden's case, he wasn't trying to be funny, or it didn't sound like he was trying to be funny. He's the president. That's kind of a more serious thing. So it really kind of pointed out their hypocrisy. And to the credit of some of the mainstream media, some of them did kind of acknowledge the fact that it was kind of a hypocritical statement. But then they said that Joe Biden clarified his statement. Joe Biden clarified his statement. He wasn't talking about Trump supporters. He was talking about Trump's supporter, specifically Tony Hinchcliffe. And that's where the whole scandal erupted of the White House actually editing the official transcript, which is against the law, by the way, of what Joe Biden said. And they added his apostrophe. So when he said Trump supporters, they put Trump supporter apostrophe S, making it singular to Tony Hinchcliffe, which is not what he said. And this has been talked about. Many news outlets, even the Associated Press, has reported on this. It was a big scandal. But I think like the real story is the fact that the media, they will give Joe Biden, some like a Democrat, the benefit of the doubt. But when it comes to Donald Trump, Donald Trump can't clarify his statements. Donald Trump, whatever context that the media or the pundits or these political analysts, whatever context that they decide to attach to it, that's what they will run with, and they won't stop. And they thought it was going to work too. That's the funny thing. They thought it was going to work. They thought, America would not see that they were being lied to. They thought America was so dumb that when they're watching TV, eating their Cheetos or whatever, listening to CNN, that they're going to be like, oh my God, can you believe Trump's a racist? Oh, can you believe this Trump supporter said Puerto Rico is garbage? That equates to Trump racism. That equates to voting for Trump equals I'm a Nazi. Well, the majority of America said F you to the mainstream media. F you to New York City's justice system, because that's all part of it. Trump going through the trials, the indictments, the federal government, Jack Smith, all these things are now going away. I just read, actually, on Twitter, Judge Merchan is actually considering, I shouldn't say he is. I don't think it's happened yet. See if I can find this really quick. But while we're waiting for Joe Biden to come out, got a couple different feeds here. Let me mute this one because I'm going to play probably the C-SPAN one here. But Judge Merchan here, it's being reported that he is considering tossing the case against President Trump in New York after the election victory. So this is good news. I mean, it shouldn't have ever came in the first place. Ridiculous case. I covered this case very closely. There was a guy, Inner City Press, it was, on Twitter. He actually sat in the courtroom and he would write what was going down because they didn't allow, any sort of recording. They didn't allow reporters to have cameras, anything like that. So there was official transcripts that came out later, but then there was this guy called Inner City Press on Twitter. Great. I mean, he covers a lot of these cases, not just the Trump ones. But he would sit there and he would transcribe and talk about everything that happened, like in this format that was like first person or third person. I don't know. But I would read those, and I did that for pretty much every single day of that trial, the hush money case. And that was absolutely mind-blowing. That really opened my eyes to it. I already thought, the government was corrupt. I thought the mainstream media was fake. But I still had hope in, our justice system to a certain extent. When I saw that, I was like, dang, that's crazy. And I think one of the most obvious examples, I said this yesterday, one of the most obvious examples of the justice system in New York specifically. I mean, it's not this way everywhere. I know some places are bad, some places are better. New York is specifically bad. But Judge Merchan, they have these jury instructions that they write up, right? Supposed to inform the jury about different, aspects of the case. They're supposed to stay, non-biased and all these other things. Very confusing jury instructions. And not only were they confusing, but the jury was not even allowed to have a copy of them during the deliberations. So that alone is just insane. Like, why, if the jury is back there deliberating, why can't they have a copy of the jury instructions? So not only were they bad and confusing, but they couldn't have a copy of them. On top of that, they are there. There are jury instructions. So therefore, they would need to reference them at some point. Well, the only context in which they could reference the jury instructions, and this is put in place, an order put in place by Judge Merchan, was if they came to Judge Merchan personally, and Judge Merchan would inform them from the jury instructions. So the whole thing was kind of steered by Judge Merchan in the direction of a guilty verdict. Absolutely insane. Out of all the things wrong with that case, that is like the most clear cut. Like, I mean, there was a billion things wrong with that case. You can talk about a billion things, but that alone is just a total red flag. And not only is Donald Trump, being tried in a liberal blue state that hates him, but then they have a corrupt judge steering every single decision of every single jury member that comes to him. Okay, guys, I can stop blabbing now. Let's go to Joe Biden addressing the nation, doing a little jog.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. Please. Thank you. Good to see this cabinet and staff together here. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's good to see you all. Particularly good to see my granddaughter sitting in the front row here. Hi, Finn. How are you, honey? For over 200 years, America has carried on the greatest experiment in self-government in the history of the world. And that's not hyperbole. That's a fact. We're the people. The people vote and choose their own leaders, and they do it peacefully. And we're in a democracy. The will of the people always prevails. Yesterday, I spoke with President-elect Trump to congratulate him on his victory. And I assured him that I'd direct my entire administration to work with his team to ensure a peaceful and orderly transition. That's what the American people deserve. Yesterday, I also spoke with Vice President Harris. She's been a partner and a public servant. She ran an inspiring campaign, and everyone got to see something that I learned early on to respect so much, her character. She has a backbone like a ramrod. She has great character, true character. She gave her whole heart and effort, and she and her entire team should be proud of the campaign they ran. The struggle for the soul of America, since our very founding, has always been an ongoing debate and still vital today. I know for some people, it's a time for victory, to state the obvious. For others, it's a time of loss. Campaigns are contests of competing visions. The country chooses one or the other. We accept the choice the country made. I've said many times, you can't love your country only when you win. You can't love your neighbor only when you agree. Something I hope we can do, no matter who you voted for, is see each other not as adversaries, but as fellow Americans. Bring down the temperature. I also hope we can lay to rest the question about the integrity of the American electoral system. It is honest, it is fair, and it is transparent.
No.
And it can
it's not.
Win or lose. I also hope we can restore the respect for all our election workers who busted their necks and took risks at the outset. We should thank them. Thank them for staffing voting sites, counting the votes, protecting the very integrity of the election. Many of them are volunteers who do it simply out of love for their country. And as they did their duty as citizens, I will do my duty as president. I'll fulfill my oath, and I will honor the Constitution. On January 20th, we'll have a peaceful transfer of power here in America. To all our incredible staff, supporters, cabinet members, all the people who've been hanging out with me for the last 4 years, God love you, as my mother would say, thank you so much. You put so much into the past 4 years. I know it's a difficult time. You're hurting. I hear you and I see you. But don't forget all that we accomplished. It's been a historic presidency. Not because I'm president, because what we've done, what you've done. A presidency for all Americans. Much of the work we've done is already being felt by the American people, but the vast majority of it will not be felt over the next 10 years. We have legislation we passed that's just only now just really kicking in. We're going to see over $1 trillion worth of infrastructure work done, changing people's lives in rural communities and communities that are in real difficulty, because it takes time to get it done. And so much more. It's going to take time. You know, it's there. We're leaving behind. The road ahead is clear. The strongest. We sustain it. There's so much we can get done and will get done based on the way the legislation was passed. And it's truly historic. You know, we're leaving behind the strongest economy in the world. I know people are still hurting, but things are changing rapidly. Together, we've changed America for the better. Now we have 74 days to finish the term, our term. Let's make every day count. That's the responsibility we have to the American people. Look, folks, you all know it in your lives. Setbacks are unavoidable, but giving up is unforgivable. Setbacks are unavoidable, but giving up is unforgivable. We all get knocked down. But the measure of our character, as my dad would say, is how quickly we get back up. Remember, a defeat does not mean we are defeated. We lost this battle. The America of your dreams is calling for you to get back up. That's the story of America for over 240 years and counting. It's a story for all of us, not just some of us. The American experiment endures. We're going to be okay, but we need to stay engaged. We need to keep going. And above all, we need to keep the faith. I'm so proud to have worked with all of you. I really mean it. I sincerely mean it. God bless you all. God bless America. And may God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay. That's what we have. All in all, I think that's about as good a speech as we can expect from Joe Biden. I mean, I got to say this. I mean, despite the obvious deceptions there where he's talking about unifying the country and the need to, you know, go forward as a unified country and talking about the election process being transparent and all that. We all know that's a lie. But it is I do appreciate the fact that Joe Biden didn't say anything divisive about Trump. That's a good thing. Of course, you know, these politicians, the campaigns, they don't ever, very rarely, once in the bluest of blue moons will they admit that they did something wrong. Of course, they're never going to admit that. So this is the best that we can expect from our side. And I think that's the best version of speech I could see Joe Biden doing. He didn't say anything divisive. Way better than Kamala Harris's speech. Way better than all these people, these pundits on social media, on MSNBC, talking about how Trump is now going to have free reign over the country. That's right. Trump is king. King Trump. All hail King Trump. No, I'm just kidding. I did want to play this for you guys. Judge Merchan, because I went into this little diatribe earlier talking about Judge Merchan. Oh, man, Judge Merchan. This guy. How evil can this guy be? I did want to play this for you guys. So apparently, Merchan is admitting defeat. That's the rumor, at least. He's considering tossing the case against Donald Trump after election victory. This was posted by Benny Johnson on X.
I'm told that his legal team is going to try to make sure that sentencing never happens. As we know, their usual strategy is always to just try to get things delayed. But here they're going to argue to the judge that the sentencing should never happen because now that Trump is president-elect, they will say that he is entitled to the same constitutional protections as a sitting president and should be protected from state actors, and in this case, state prosecutors. Now, the judge overseeing that case, Judge Juan Merchan, he's given himself a deadline of November 12th to decide if the conviction against Trump should be tossed. Based on the Supreme Court's recent ruling on immunity, if he tosses the conviction, there'll be no sentencing. But if that sentencing continues to go forward, this is the argument that the Trump team is going to make. I'm told that his legal team...
So, looks like Trump's legal woes are over? Question mark? Over? I don't know. Over? And it looks like we've got a Republican-run House, Republican-run Senate. There are some shenanigans going on with some of those ballots, but whatever. I don't think the House has yet called for the Republicans, but that's the rumor that Republicans have it. But we do have, Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi back in the mix. So it's going to be a little blast from the past. And you know, those people are going to be leading their committees, leading all these assaults against Donald Trump. And that's fine. I think their power is going to be significantly diminished in this administration. But yeah, I mean, it's still surreal. Still surreal to me. What's going on? Let's go to Twitter. Let's see what's going on with Twitter. Kind of did an impromptu live stream. I saw around like 7 o'clock this morning that Biden was speaking. I was like, that's something that I want to play. We got some rants, some leftists. I saw this one earlier. You guys got to check this out. So this is this lady that was so dead set. She considers herself a political analyst. And she went to the liquor store to get some champagne before Kamala Harris had a blowout landslide victory. And she had a little exchange with the cashier. Take a look.
We're closing in on almost 5 p.m. Eastern time, and I've been tracking everything that's been going on across the country today. And my most important encounter was when I went out to get my champagne. I was talking to the guy in the store, of course, asking him, did he vote? And he said he did early voting, and he asked me if I early voted. And he asked me, why I was getting the champagne. And I said, because I'm going to be toasting Madam President tonight. And he just looked at me with kind of like a smirk on his face. And I said, she's going to win this, right? And he says, oh, well, it's very, very close. And I said, no, it's not. He says, well, what do you mean? I said, no, it's not. The women of America are making their voices heard. Reproductive rights is what it all comes down to. And the women are voting in numbers relative to men that are unbelievable. She's won this. And I said to him, she's going to take every one of the swing states plus Iowa. And he said, oh, but the numbers are so close. I said, I'm a political analyst. I'm telling you right now, the numbers are there. She's taking this election. And then I said to him, you realize, and he didn't tell me who he voted for, but of course I knew. And I said, you do realize you wasted your vote, right? And I didn't care. And I walked out with my bottle of champagne and happily walked home.
Oh my God, she sounds delusional. She sounds crazy.
So, as you know, Kamala Harris did not win the election.
And then
as the numbers
the response.
Right now, there were 18 million fewer votes than in 2020. And as I have said all along, you have to have a huge, huge turnout. And it goes to the Dems. And we didn't have it. There is one fundamental thing that you cannot account for when you're using data to predict or project the out.
This is what I hate about these experts. They They will make this wild prediction and they'll say, well, I'm an expert. I'm a political analyst. And then they'll get it wrong. And then they'll try to describe how they got it wrong. It's just like, if you got it wrong on this big issue, why would I believe your analysis of how you got it wrong? You know what I mean? It's just like, if you were wrong so bad, because, Kamala Harris blowout on all the swing states, or in general, I'm going to be toasting Madam Vice President. She's getting in this little exchange with this person as the cashier, who is probably a Trump supporter. She gets that wrong. Now she's trying to explain. She's trying to prop herself up as an expert once again and trying to explain how she got it wrong, and expecting us to take her seriously is crazy.
Outcome of an election is you can't factor in the impact of racism or the existence of racism and misogyny.
Fair enough. Okay. Oh, you can't factor in. Yeah, you also can't measure it. It exists in your head. I love it. It's like whenever an anomaly happens, something that they can't just fathom, it's racism. It's racism. Oh no, it's this ethereal thing up there in the sky, These people like to make fun of Christians for believing in, a God who's invisible and they can't see or whatever. But then they reference their God of racism. Oh no. Racism, sexism, everything that happens that I don't like and that I can't explain. It's like their little, their little blankie, their little teddy bear. When you're a kid, you had a blankie or a teddy bear or something that was emotionally significant to you that you can hold on and everything just feels better. Everything just feels okay. That's like the left and these racism, sexism terms. Well, I'm not wrong. I'm certainly not thinking in a weird way. I'm certainly not the one that should rethink my own values. It's them. It's them that are wrong because they are infested with this racism and sexism thing that's going around. It's not me that's infested with a woke mind virus. It's them. It's them that are racist. And if you are a racist, that's terrible. Everyone can agree that racism is wrong, right? Well, I'm the righteous one. We also have go over a couple other things here. Governor in Massachusetts is vowing to prevent the incoming Trump administration from enforcing immigration law. So they're just directly, it's just so crazy. These are illegal immigrants. There should be some sort of penalties for this. I believe that's what ALX says here. There should be penalties for the state-assisted illegal immigration. It should.
If the Trump administration requests it, would the Massachusetts State Police assist in mass deportations?
No, absolutely not. But, let me say this. I do think it's important that we all recognize that there's going to be a lot of pressure on states and state officials. And I can assure you, we're going to work really hard to deliver. Some realities also need to be, noted, and that is in 2016, we had a very different situation in the courts. And while I'm sure there may be litigation ahead, there's a lot of other ways that people are going to act and need to act for the sake of their states and their residents. There's regulatory authority and executive powers and the like. There's legislation also within our states. So I think that the key here is that every tool in the toolbox has got to be used to protect our citizens, to protect our residents, and protect our states, and certainly to hold the line on democracy and the rule of law as a basic principle, right?
So, very interesting how they're going about this. It's just us versus them scenario always when it comes to the Democrats. And it's the craziest language. Of course, we saw it with them calling Trump Hitler, Trump supporters trash. But get that different here, get that Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit here. Looks like the Bushes, all of their presidential influence is gone, according to Axios. This is an article. Behind the curtain, the most powerful Republican president of the modern era. Then it says Donald Trump has vanquished the Bushes, the Clintons, the Bidens, and the Obamas. Get out of here. Out. All of those. That's awesome. And the entire establishment of both parties. The man. 2 assassination attempts, maybe more. 2 that we know of. Endless court cases. They arrested him in Fulton County, took his mugshot. I was there. That was where it all started for me. When I started making content was Fulton County. If you go back, I have like this 1-hour video. I was interviewing people in Fulton County. I went there. My sister actually lives in Georgia. My other sister flew up. She was like videoing for me. It was a blast. I met Laura Loomer, some other people in Trump's camp. Marjorie Taylor Greene was there. It was wild. It was a wild time. I didn't even get to see Trump. That's where it all started for me. Fulton County, Georgia. Fani Willis, arguably the most corrupt DA in the world. I think she got reelected too, which is mind-boggling. Then, of course, we had the tyrannical Letitia James, vowed to go after Trump. And she ran on that. She ran on going after Trump and getting Trump. How was it allowed? I don't know. That's New York. They tried to take all of his businesses, his money, his freedom. Ridiculous case after ridiculous case. Then the federal government, Jack Smith, this special prosecutor that came out of nowhere, who is like a bulldog. I mean, Jack Smith, as evil as the guy is, I despise that guy. It's impressive, his tenacity. I mean, it didn't matter what happened. The guy came back with something. I'm like, dang, I would not want that guy going after me. And I've said it. We got to have someone on the America First side like Jack Smith. I'm sure we do. But he didn't care. I mean, he got ruled against by the Supreme Court, and he still came back with some BS. I'm like, well, this guy is nuts, you know? Of course, to be fair, he did have corrupt judges that rubber stamped a lot of his stuff, but he never stopped. He had one singular goal, and that was to get Donald Trump. That was his whole life. All that's going away. Assassination attempt. Like, Donald Trump has been through everything. And now, Axios, the entire establishment of both parties has been vanquished. This is why they fought so hard against Donald Trump, because they know this was the last battle. And Donald Trump prevailed. Donald Trump, and really it was not just Trump, though. It was everyone. Everyone, like, in his circle, everyone that was concerned about the direction of the country. And I think that's one of the good things that Donald Trump, or one of the ways that Donald Trump shines is, I mean, he does, he is a little bit of a flashy guy. He does have an ego, but he really brings everyone into his circle and makes it feel like it's a team. This article goes on to say Trump is stronger than ever, backed by a party wholly remade in his image. All hail King Trump. Let's go. Let's piss off some libs. All hail King Trump. Sir, I'm reporting for duty, sir. And opposed by demoralized and defeated Democrats. Oh, you just love it. You just love it. Trump will come to power better organized, better staffed, an exponentially better position to dominate his party and the nation than he was the last time. It's true. Last time, he faced significant hurdles, roadblocks in his campaign, because when he took the White House, he didn't have the staffing. He didn't have the manpower, the people to fill these staffing positions. Because when a president takes office, it's not just the president, right? It's not, Donald Trump's just one person. There's a whole administration that switches over when a president takes office. And a president is responsible for upwards of 10,000 jobs. And Donald Trump can't staff all of those. So he has to rely on, so in 2016, that is, when he took the White House, he didn't have, a huge plan. He didn't, he was coming into this, he was not a politician before. It was like coming into this completely, new. He might have had a few people, but it was not the necessary amount to fill all of these jobs. So he had to rely on, unfortunately, a lot of these bureaucratic type people who are entrenched in DC politics. And I don't think he really even knew what he was doing when he did that, to staff a lot of these positions. And that matters because Donald Trump, he makes decisions on the high level. The president makes these high level decisions, but the low level, they're the ones that are writing the legislation, that are, putting the specific language in the legislation, presenting Donald Trump with options. Do I choose A? Do I choose B? So Donald Trump is steering the ship, on the top level, but then you have all of these intricate details underneath in his administration that are tweaking it, and that really create the character of the administration. So when Donald Trump came in 2016, you had this 10,000 plus jobs staffed with people that didn't have his same agenda, that didn't have his same America First mindset. That's why you saw when Trump tried to do some military actions that they just disobeyed him. This is why, America Firsters, people that are MAGA fans, that are Trump fans, this is why they are so diametrically opposed. They're so against someone like Mike Pompeo. But now, Axios understands this. Like, he's coming into this administration completely different person. He's been through it. He's been through the ringer. I don't know of any other president that has went through what Donald Trump has. Really, any other person. And Donald Trump, he was the wrong guy to mess with. For real. You have the entire weight of the Justice Department, and then you have the administration infiltrating the New York justice system, which is a machine in and of itself, and pulling the levers over there in Alvin Bragg's office and Letitia James's office. Then you have them going to corrupt Fulton County, controlling Fani Willis, coming to him at all sides. Then you, not only that, but to just add to the heap, you have the corporate press pummeling him every second of the day, calling him the worst things imaginable. And Donald Trump, it just keeps plugging away. It's really incredible. It really is remarkable. But Trump will come to power better organized, better staffed, an exponentially better position to dominate his party and the nation than he was last time. Trump promises to stretch the immense powers of the presidency with historically wide latitude from a pliant conservative Supreme Court. And that's another thing. Some of these Supreme Court justices, I think it's two of them, right? 2 or 3? I forget. we're talking about retiring. Trump could have the most significant effect on American history, have a more significant effect on American history than any time by far, and the future of America, because if a couple of these, even one Supreme Court justice steps down, he appoints whoever it is, that's huge. That's arguably bigger than a president themselves. A new conservative media ecosystem centered on Elon Musk's X will amplify Trump's power and reshape America's information wars. I don't agree with this. I don't agree it'll amplify Trump's power. Maybe by kind of in a way, possibly because conservatives generally believe that free speech is important because of why? The First Amendment of the Constitution. So they might interpret that as amplifying Trump's power. So by default, free speech amplifies Trump's power, I guess. You know, it's really kind of a ridiculous thing to say. Elon Musk is a very fair person. He has said time and time again that he does not suppress the left on the platform. They do have a way to flag posts. It's called community notes, and it's ran by the community. Anybody can be a part of community notes. And not only that, it's open to see how they run the community notes. It's open source. So anyone can look at it and look at kind of the inner workings of how community notes works. So for them to say he will, specifically amplify Trump's power, you can't really predict the future, but you can look at the past. And while Elon Musk has endorsed Trump on his platform, did create America PAC, the platform itself remained as a free speech, fair platform. So I think that's kind of ridiculous for Axios to insert that into the article. But then they say efforts to prosecute him are likely to end. By the numbers, Trump's victory was astonishing in its sweep and scope. Yeah, 312 electoral votes. All but 2 states, Washington and Utah, went more heavily for Trump on Tuesday than in 2020. Trump was backed by a remarkable 1 in 3 voters of color. He improved over his 2020 performance among voters younger than 30. Black voters and Hispanic voters. Yeah, specifically Hispanic voters. I saw New York Post wrote this article. There was a city or a town in Texas. Their population, I believe, I want to say it was 96% Hispanic, maybe even more, maybe 97. But the majority voted Trump. So that's incredible. President Biden won Latino men by 23 points in 2020, but Trump won them by 10 points in 2024. That's a massive swing. The big picture, the roughly half of America opposed to Trump is left with little solace and even less federal power. Trump's romp flipped the Senate to Republican control, and the GOP is on track to keep the House. Democrats are left without a leader or a clear ideological identity after Vice President Harris ran a campaign light on the ideas and heavy on emotion. She underperformed Biden's 2020. She underperformed Biden's 2020 showing across the map in every sense of the word. Every single county, Kamala Harris underperformed Biden. I don't know if you guys saw that viral clip of on CNN of Jake Tapper. It was. They had this screen there, and they went to the comparison between Biden and Kamala, and they're expecting to see a couple counties light up where Kamala did better than Joe Biden in 2024. Not a single one. And Jake Tapper is like, what? Not a single county? That's crazy. He looked shocked. He sounded shocked. Trump can brag of a new coalition brimming with record high Hispanic support, working class zeal, and a surge in young voters. And any restraints from anti-Trump Republicans in Congress or inside his White House are gone. He vowed to use that power to punish or even jail his critics. That's false. Justice is a completely different thing than revenge. I think Donald Trump should go after some of these people that just went after him for no reason. He should at least use the Justice Department to look into those cases and why they were brought in the first place, because the reason why some of these cases were brought didn't make any sense outside of the statute of limitations. For the hush money case, that little, clerical error, that was outside of the statute of limitations. And somehow they did these legal, contortions to bring it back into the statute of limitations. It was mind-boggling. E. Jean Carroll, even if that were true, which it is not, it was completely ridiculous. That was outside of the statute of limitations. What happened? Well, Reid Hoffman funded E. Jean Carroll's whole lawsuit against Donald Trump, the defamation case, the sexual assault case, all that. But regardless of that, they made a law specifically for 1 year. It was a 1-year law. This was after all this stuff was going on. That would allow sexual assault abusees, people that were abused, to bring their cases to New York outside of the statute of limitations. Of course, they didn't reference Donald Trump specifically in this law, but it was specifically made and tailored to go after Donald Trump. So now you're creating laws specifically to go after one person? Donald Trump's a private citizen. What are you doing? So stuff like that needs to be inspected. Why are we having a Justice Department? Why are we having a justice system in New York? Like that one quote goes, "Show me the man, I'll show you the crime." Or in Trump's case, "Show me the man, and I will twist things around to where I can make it a crime," or something. Because it's just mind blowing what happened with Trump's cases. Fulton County, with Fani Willis hiring her lover, Nathan Wade, paying him almost $1 million. He was the special prosecutor on the case. The guy had never even prosecuted a RICO case in his life, didn't even know what it was. When she hired him, he had to go to this class to even learn about RICO cases. That came out in the hearing they had when they subpoenaed him. How does that happen? He has pledged to carry out, continuing on, to the largest deportation operation in American history. Let's go. I really hope he does this bigly. I hope he does it in a big way. He has threatened to fire thousands of government employees deemed disloyal. Well, here's the thing. When a president comes into an administration, you want that administration, like I explained before, to carry out your agenda. If you're going to have people bucking against your agenda and doing the exact opposite, insubordinating you, maybe you don't want those employees to be in your administration. So they're saying this as if it's a bad thing. I mean, for them, it would be a bad thing. For Democrats, it is a negative. Of course. But they're saying it as if it's just accepted to fire government employees deemed disloyal. What they really mean is insubordinate. Trump is the head. Trump is the boss. So he needs an administration that comes in that does what he believes. Plus, that's not even to mention the fact that we should fire thousands of government employees as it is, which RFK Jr. has already come out and talked about this. He's talking about closing down entire departments of the FDA. So let's go. Don't threaten me with a good time, Axios. Come on. Trump sources tell us he'll consolidate power by steering who runs the House and Senate and unleashing his agenda out of the gate, starting with an immigration crackdown. Watch for him to load his White House and cabinet with rich, accomplished men. How it happened. How Trump won says a lot about how he'll govern, Trump advisors tell us. Trump will be Trump. He said and did whatever he wanted on the campaign trail and will do more of this in office. He will surround himself with capable people like he did with Susie Wiles and Chris LaCivita. Now, I'm entirely sure that Susie Wiles is capable, but she's a lobbyist. Chris LaCivita is a consultant, political consultant. I mean, I don't want to rain on anyone's parade, but I'm not a big fan of either of those. And the fact that Axios is saying that they're capable is a red flag to me. Trump sees himself as the champion of toughness and the working class, which attracted a lot of Hispanic and black men to his predominantly white blue-collar base. It's no accident that Stephen Miller, a top advisor on immigration policy advisor in the first Trump term, who's expected to have a top White House job in the new administration, tweeted last night, "If you know any men who haven't voted, get them to the polls." Going to destroy traditional media. I mean, Trump has taken a wrecking ball to the mainstream media. And this is like my favorite part of Trump, honestly. I despise the mainstream media. I despise everything about it. I've talked about it a lot. When people are just sitting there in front of cameras and every aspect of how they act, their voice inflection, the way they look and move and dress is all there to try to present some sort of authority on the subject matter. And they really have no idea what they're talking about. They're reading a teleprompter. Words that were written by not them, not anyone that really is trying to analyze the situation, but by certain businesses and corporations that are advertising for them, that pay them ad dollars. That really pisses me off. And I get it. Everyone's going to be biased to a certain degree, but it just got insanely ridiculous. I mean, you saw MSNBC when Trump was holding his rally on Madison Square Garden, dedicated a whole segment to Trump and putting side-by-side images and videos of a Nazi rally that was held in Madison Square Garden. I mean, come on. At some point, you got to be like, this is crazy. But it says he hates his media critics and witnessed the new power of X and Elon Musk, plus Joe Rogan, and the other bro-tilted realms of the podcast world. Trump believes a weakened media is ready to collapse. Now he has a bigger, more powerful alternative to help replace it. Pound the woke. That's right. I mean, that's the whole, my channel is called Unwoke Thoughts. The woke mind virus. Even Elon Musk used to talk about this, the woke mind virus, because it's an anomaly. A lot of us that feel like, we still think the same way to, a certain degree, to a large degree of how we thought years ago. Logic is still a thing. Objectivity should still be a thing. Then you seemingly have like this giant part of the population that all of a sudden just went nuts. And that's called woke. That's what I remember. I remember this was years and years ago. Like, what? How is everyone all of a sudden just going insane? I didn't think I really changed that much. Just all of a sudden there's this shift and everyone's going literally insane. Don't underestimate the damage Democrats did to their brand by promoting political correctness. Democrat strategists told us it's a huge problem for the image of the party, not just Harris. Trump saw this as a vital turning independents and apathetic voters into Republicans, or at least Trump Republicans. Listen, Axios, Trump is the Republican Party now. Look at me. Look at me, Republicans. We are the party now. How do you like that? We should just call it the MAGA Party, the Make America Great Again, or the America First Party. I don't know. I'm okay with getting rid of the Republican name. Let's just get rid of the Republicans. We'll let Mitt Romney still be a Republican. We'll just have our own party, right? The campaign was only the beginning. Expect Trump to lure economic advisors who will be accepted by the corporate establishment. Based on his path back to power, he knows his presidency will hang partly on low inflation and robust growth. So, I would give that article maybe, 6 out of 10 for Axios. We got some news from Tim Walz, though. Go over this really quickly. Tim Walz couldn't even beat Trump in his home county in telling final blow. I mean, that's pretty bad. Tim Walz, though, I mean, what a weird guy, right? Just total weirdo. And the funny thing is, Tim Walz was the one that started that whole Trump and Vance are weird thing. That was Tim Walz. I don't know if you guys remember that. I'm sure I could pull up the clip somewhere. But he was on this, I think it was MSNBC maybe. And he said, he called JD, I think it was specifically JD Vance at the time. He called him weird. And then all of a sudden, this was before he was even vice president or the vice presidential candidate. All of a sudden, like a couple days later, the Harris campaign started running with this weird thing, calling JD Vance weird. And they started pushing this idea that JD Vance had sex with a couch. They took like a fake quote. They said it was out of his book that supposedly said that JD Vance had sex with a couch cushion. And then that took off kind of at the same time when they started calling JD Vance weird. And I just remember seeing it all over Twitter. It was just ridiculous. But that was Tim Walz. This article says, President-elect Trump's overwhelming win saw him net 49.6% of the vote in Minnesota's Blue Earth County, where Walz lived for 20 years before he was elected governor. Walz's running mate, Vice President Kamala Harris, fell short with about 48.3% of the vote. Walz was born in Nebraska but moved to Blue Earth County as an adult, where he taught social studies and coached football at Mankato High School. So Trump, it's this county right here. Let me try to zoom in a little bit. You can see better. But that's it right there. Blue Earth County, Trump won by about 500 votes. Little over 500 votes. 550 votes. He flipped the state's first congressional district for the Democrats in 2006 and represented the area in Congress for 12 years. Interesting. Last one, guys. So Kamala Harris raised an ungodly amount of money during her campaign. An ungodly amount. I mean, it was incredible. That's why these people that say that Kamala Harris, she did so good for only just starting her campaign 180 days ago. Well, I mean, look at how much money she raised. Look how much money was behind her. She had the Biden war chest that was already built up. And then all these special interests, these corrupt groups were just pouring money into her campaign. It's incredible how much money they spent. Over $1 billion, I believe it was. Over $1 billion. She outspent Donald Trump, I think, by like 4-1. Maybe even more than that. I could be wrong on that. It was a lot. I remember this was a couple months ago. It compared how much money the Harris campaign spent compared to how much money Trump spent in 1 month. Kamala Harris was like spending like $20 million a day or $15 million a day for an entire month. Incredible. In like every aspect of your life was infiltrated by Harris ads. You went on YouTube, you're pummeled all the time. I said this the other day. I have a TV, a Roku that has like Roku on it, right? Where it has apps. The home screen always has like one ad right there. And it's usually like an HBO show, an ad for something or other. Even my Roku TV home screen where you select the apps had a Kamala Harris ad. And usually I don't even like look at them. You know, they're just kind of like in my peripheral. But this time I was like, what? There's a Kamala Harris ad on my Roku TV? That was mind-blowing to me. Kamala's campaign ends $20 million in debt despite raising over $1 billion in just 107 days. Wow. Vice President Kamala Harris' failed presidential campaign ended $20 million in debt, according to a new report, despite having brought in $1 billion in campaign donations since ousting Joe Biden from the top of the ticket on July 21st. Politico's California bureau chief, Christopher Catalego, posted on X, Kamala Harris's campaign ended with at least $20 million in debt. Per two sources familiar, Harris raised over $1 billion and had $118 million in the bank as of October the 16th. A Harris Walls campaign staffer confirmed the report to Breitbart, adding that Harris campaign chair, Jen O'Malley Dillon, blew through $1 billion in a few months. Wow. Matthew Boyle here. Okay, so this just got very explosive. A Kamala campaign staffer who saw these posts called me just now and said there is a massive scandal here worthy of an audit. Let's go to this X post here. The $20 million in debt is real. Rob Flaherty, this staffer, said is currently shopping around the Kamala fundraising email list to anyone who wants it to try to raise the money back. This includes other campaigns and outside groups. So they have this giant email list that they've aggregated. And so they're probably trying to sell this email list because email lists are powerful. I remember this consulting company I used to work for. They had an email list. And we would have contractors that would want to buy the email list. And they would, I mean, ours was not even a political email list with millions of people. It was just had maybe a couple thousand. And there was contractors offering like $10,000 for an email list. I was like, that's crazy. My boss was like, oh, no, we would never sell it for that little. I was like, well, I would do it. Flaherty is the deputy campaign manager and reports to Jen O'Malley Dillon. Jen blew through $1 billion in a few months, and it was all Jen's idea to do the concerts. So if you look at these celebrities that were endorsing Kamala Harris, they were getting paid a crap ton of money. I mean, I think it was they were saying that Beyonce got paid $10 million. I don't know if that was actually confirmed, but come on. Beyonce got paid a crap ton of money. Lizzo, I think, got paid like $2 million. So just on celebrity endorsements, it had to be a ton of money because it was just one celebrity after another. It was just like all the celebrities. And that was so sweet to think back. These celebrities in Hollywood just have no power anymore. Oh, man, they probably just feel so depressed that they are not a big deal anymore. Jennifer Lopez, all these Beyonce, Taylor Swift, Eminem. Come on, Eminem. What are they calling him now? Feminim. But I mean, these they're not just going out there and giving these endorsements. Most of them, I assume, are being paid. Maybe some blackmailed because of Diddy. But the source added that O'Malley Dillon did these concerts like Katy Perry, Lizzo, Eminem, Bruce Springsteen, etc., at the expense of prioritizing and spending money on social media and other campaign priorities. Apparently, a group in Georgia had to lay off 100 people because they couldn't pay them. It's unclear at this time if the campaign paid the talent to perform, but the cost of production for the events was immense. What's more, this Kamala campaign staffer said several people who are working for Kamala Harris for president campaign are still waiting several overdue payments they were promised for their work. They didn't pay the staff. The Kamala campaign staffer said people didn't like working with her. Many people on the campaign felt like we lost because Kamala wasn't allowed to run her campaign. They were running Joe Biden's campaign instead of Kamala Harris's campaign. Obnoxious and very much a gatekeeper and interfering with the vice president's people who are trying to do their job. So was it Biden the whole time? Just like we drew it up. Remember when he tweeted that out? Joe Biden with laser eyes. Let me see if I can find that. Just Joe Biden behind the scenes. It was Biden the whole time. Let's see if I can find this. His Twitter account tweeted out that laser eyes. Oh, here it is. Okay, this is not the actual tweet from his account. But that's what it was. That was what was tweeted out after the Super Bowl, because everyone was saying that the Chiefs were going to win the Super Bowl because Travis Kelce was dating Taylor Swift. It was a big conspiracy, and it was an up and down game. Like, I forgot the other. I don't remember the teams. I think it was the Chiefs, but the other team was like leading, and then it was like super close, and then in overtime, the Chiefs won. It was a big conspiracy, and people were tweeting about it. It was definitely going to be Taylor Swift, because she was a big Democrat. They were going to win because the idea was Taylor Swift endorses Joe Biden, and they're going to use all of this focus on the Super Bowl to get Joe Biden a lot of exposure and numbers because she was dating Travis Kelce. It was a big conspiracy theory. So after the game, after the Chiefs won, Biden's Twitter account tweeted out this picture of Biden with laser eyes. And the caption read, "Just like we drew it up." I even did a video on this a long time ago. That seems like ages ago. That's crazy. Crazy. But how are you guys doing? The little impromptu live stream. I didn't even have anything ready. I just clicked the live button. Let's see here. Here we go. Got Mama Bear in the chat. I was going to Mama Bear. Some of my great members. Pete says Trump has experience in DC politics. Now he knows the field, and he's not looking at re-election. He's going to kick some serious swamp arse this time. I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so. I was a little bit disappointed on his disavowal of Project 2025. But it seems like some of the architects of Project 2025 might be advising some of his administration picks, which is huge. Because that's why Project 2025 was created. But like I said, some of these rhinos kind of in his circle, whenever the media made such a big deal about Project 2025, were telling him that Project 2025 was toxic, was radioactive, Why? Well, two reasons. Number one, the media was making a really big deal of it. But the other reason is a different one. Because they want to fill the jobs with their own people. Project 2025 was created by Trump loyalists to solve that very problem that happened in 2016 when Trump didn't have all these individuals to staff his administration. Like I said, 10,000 plus people he's got to staff his administration with. And many of these are just leftovers from past administrations. A lot of people just they just keep a lot of the lower level jobs from past administrations. And that's why Donald Trump had such a hard time during 2016. So to remedy this, Project 2025 was created. Yes, there is a policy platform for Project 2025, but that's only one tiny part of what Project 2025 was. The other bigger aspect was this database of people that were vetted, interviewed, to be ready for a second Trump administration so that they could fill this 10,000 plus jobs and people who were Trump loyalists that would do what Trump said, because Trump he's the boss. That's how it's supposed to go. Not how it went the first time when he tried to do tried to enact certain policy agendas and they just told him no. I mean, even some military orders. What was it? Syria, Libya? I forgot. There was one that really sticks out. And they delivered the order and they just flat out didn't do it. What? You don't want that happening in your administration. You're the one. You're the guy. You're the one steering the ship. If you have a captain steering the ship and, the steering wheel isn't attached to the rudder, that's kind of what these lower level people are. They're kind of the rudder. Trump is the captain. He's steering the ship. They're the rudder. So if your rudder's not working, you're going to have some problems. Southern Sass says Nevada House just called Titus Democrat. Yeah, the winner. I saw that. Get Lost says we should just change the name of Project 2025 to the Green New Deal. Let's go. Yes. Change it to the Green New Deal. Oh man, there was a really funny video that was shared on X. Let me see if I can find it really quick. It was so funny because this kind of goes along with this lines of the media fear mongering about Project 2025 and all the horrible things it's going to do. Well, this guy, I'm going to have to go on Instagram because I posted on my Instagram. It's an AI video, but it's hilarious. This guy made an AI video saying, surprise, Project 2025 was the plan all along. And I posted it. Hilarious.
Address the presidential transition plan. That's right. Project 2025 is very real. And it's, as many people are saying, it's spectacular. Your favorite president will be executing this plan immediately, which includes the following actions. Foot-long sandwiches at Subway will now be $5. Pizza Hut will now reopen all dining room areas complete with buffet service. The McRib will now be served year-round at McDonald's. The 5 for $5 will return to Arby's. Restaurants will now only serve drinks in those cool red plastic cups. The auto industry will be mandated to put CD players back in cars. Blockbuster Video will reopen nationwide. A minimum of 5 Buc-ee's gas stations per state will be open at all major thoroughfares. And that is just a teeny tiny sample of the great things it does. I honestly wish I would have heard about this plan sooner. Thank you very much. Now it's time to start the work of making America great again.
W Project 2025. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to hop off here. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. If you haven't yet, make sure you smash that like button, hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. But we'll see you on the next one.